All right, everybody, we're back, and today we're going to do the UFC 307 predictions and breakdowns for Alex Pereira and Khalil Roundtree Jr. To kick this motherfucker off, we got two vets that have been around for a while, and that is Court McGee versus Tim Means. My initial pick, I'm leaning towards Tim Means on this one, and I'm not really basing it on too much, just then, on paper, overall, I feel like Tim Means is just the more well-rounded fighter. The one concern I do have is Court McGee. I do feel like he's the better wrestler, and he is very good at grinding and putting a pace on people and kind of just winning by being, the more tenacious guy and probably having better cardio. Both guys are older. Let me double check. I believe Court McGee is like 40? No, he's 39. So Court McGee's 39. And Tim Means actually might be 40. Let me double check here. Tim Means is 40. So yeah, so 39, 40-year-old. Both these guys are pretty much at the tail end of their career. Both guys have lost quite a few fights. Just to go over their recent record, let's go over Court McGee's first. Court McGee has lost 3 in a row. So he lost to Alex Morono by decision in his last fight. He got KO'd pretty brutally against Matt Brown before that. And also got KO'd brutally right before that against Jeremiah Wells. And his last win was in 2022 against Ramiz Brahimaj. And then before that, he did beat Claudio Silva. Yeah, man, this one's a really tough fight to pick. If you look at both guys' records, Court McGee's fought some pretty good people, to be fair. He fought Condit, he fought Sean Brady, he fought Strickland. He's fought Matt Brown, Morono, Ben Saunders, Ponzinibbio. He fought Ryan LaFleur. He actually, believe it or not, back in the day, he fucking beat Robert Whittaker at middleweight by split decision. So, Tim Means is a better striker. He's going to have better boxing, better kickboxing. I feel like Tim Means is also probably... I don't know. It's tough to say. I was going to say he's probably, the better submission grappler as far as just pure submissions go. But that's kind of hard to say. Court McGee, he's good on the ground defensively, and he's a very good wrestler. Like, he's not the kind of guy that's just going to get submitted. In fact, Tim Means has been much more prone to getting submitted throughout his career. But that's not really Court McGee's game. He's not like the type of guy that's going to, try to offensively submit you or like go for a guillotine or take your back and sink in the hooks and look for a choke. That's not really his game. His game is to kind of take you down and just kind of lay on top of you and control you and wear you down and beat you up. That's what Court McGee does. So I don't see him submitting Tim Means, and I also don't see Tim Means submitting him. Fuck, man, this one's a tough one. I'm probably going to go Tim Means. I just don't know if I could trust Court McGee to be able to wrestle fuck Tim Means at this point in his career. If this fight happened, 5-6 years ago, I probably would have picked Court McGee. But, I don't know. I just feel like Tim Means has a little more left in the tank. And if this fight stays on the feet, I do feel like he'll have a significant advantage over Court McGee. So I'm going to go Tim Means by split decision. I think it's going to be real close. I'm not too confident. But yeah, I'm going to go Tim Means. I think it's going to be a split. I could see one judge giving it to Court McGee. It's going to be a close fight. But I got Tim Means by decision here. So moving on up the card, we have Carla Esparza versus Tisha Pennington, a.k.a. Tisha Torres. If you're like an OG fan, that's probably what you know her as, is Tisha Torres. This is Carla Esparza's last fight, I believe. At least according to her. And, again, another tough fight to pick. I'm kind of leaning towards Tisha Torres just because I feel like, she doesn't really seem to be on the path of retirement, whereas Carla Esparza has said this is her last fight. And looking at the recent records, let me look at Tisha Torres' recent record. So Tisha Torres is coming off of 2 losses to Tabatha Ricci. That one was by split decision, and the other one was Mackenzie Dern, also by split decision. And before that, she did beat Angela Hill and Sam Hughes. And then, at one point she was on a 4-fight losing streak. To be fair, though, it was against pretty damn good competition. Actually, not even pretty damn good, really good competition. It was against Jessica Andrade when Andrade was still kind of in her prime. And then Joanna, and then Weili Zhang, and then Marina Rodriguez, who was also fighting on the card later. So pretty good fighters she was losing to. It's not like she was, losing to some fucking scrubs or anything like that. And then if you look at Carla Esparza's recent record, as I'm going through here, her last fight was against Weili Zhang, where she lost the title. She got submitted. Before that, she beat Rose Namajunas in probably the worst fight in UFC history. Although I did think she won. I thought she won basically because the takedowns. Neither of them did absolutely anything on the feet. The only difference was Carla was getting a couple of takedowns here and there. So basically, you kind of have to give her the fight based off of that. But shit performance. But before that, she did TKO Yan Xiaonan, which is actually a pretty fucking legit win. And she also beat Marina Rodriguez in a close fight. And, she also beat Alexa Grasso. I think that, Carla Esparza is a bit underrated. It's because the way she wins fights is she scrapes by, basically. Like, she's barely scraping by, but she is beating. If you look at her record, she beat pretty good fighters, so it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. I don't know if Carla's going to be able to really, control Tisha in the wrestling for 3 rounds, especially with the way scoring is being done lately with damage, being heavily favored. It is the number one scoring criteria, but still, in these matchups, man, I'm tending to favor the striker over the grappler. In it being Carla's last fight, I'm going to go Tisha Torres. I just feel like she's going to be a little more motivated to get this one done and try to get this win. And Carla Esparza, like I said, it seems like her mind's on other things in her life. So I'm going to go Tisha Torres. Again, this is going to be a really close fight. Probably another split decision. But I'm going to go Torres here by decision, just based off of damage and kind of just outlanding her on the feet. She'll probably get taken down a couple of times, but I don't see Carla really doing anything significant with it. So moving on up, we got Ryan Spann versus OSP. I'm going Ryan Spann on this one. I know OSP just got a big upset win in his last fight against Kennedy Njoku, but Kennedy Njoku didn't fight in that fight. Just pretty much straight up, that's how it was. He just no-showed, didn't fight, and OSP scraped by doing the absolute bare minimum, and it looked like a light sparring match, that fight. OSP won, but this one's a different type of fight because Ryan Spann, win or lose, besides the Sam Alvey fight, that was kind of like the one-off. Win or lose, Ryan Spann pretty much always goes for it. Like he's either gonna knock you the fuck out or guillotine you, or he's gonna get knocked the fuck out or get submitted himself. And that's kind of pretty much how Ryan Spann's fights go every time. And OSP's older. I think he's like 41, 42. Let me double check. OSP is 41. So, yeah, he's 41. He's coming off that split decision win over Kennedy Njoku. Before that, he got KO'd by Felipe Lins early in the fight, like 49 seconds. And then before that, he beat Shogun in a rematch by split decision, the absolute corpse of Shogun. And then before that, he got KO'd by Tanner Boser at heavyweight. Got KO'd by Jamal Hill. He did knock out Alonzo Minifield, which that was back in 2020. That's an okay win. He also lost to Ben Rothwell at heavyweight. Yeah, man. I'm going to go Ryan Spann on this one. I just don't trust OSP's chin at this point. Anyone he fights that has legit explosive one-punch KO power and they go for it, he pretty much kind of gets KO'd by him. And I think that's what's going to happen in this one. And also, I feel like Ryan Spann is going to come in motivated. It's been a while since he's fought. I think his last fight, let me double check, was against Bogdan. Actually, no, he fought recently. So, yeah, he fought, I forgot about this fight, the Bogdan Guskov fight. And he's on a 3-fight losing streak, one of those being to Anthony Smith in the rematch, although, you could kind of argue he probably should have won that fight in the rematch against Anthony Smith. Close fight. Before that, he did lose to Nikita Krylov. That's not too bad of a loss. Krylov is actually pretty underrated, pretty good fighter. And Guskov is also, pretty decent. He lost that fight to Volkan Oezdemir in his debut, but since then he's looked pretty good. I'm gonna go Ryan Spann. He's younger, and I just feel like stylistically it's a pretty good matchup for him. OSP, he's pretty much just gonna kind of stand in front of him. OSP's kind of slow at this point. He doesn't really have that great of defense. And I feel like he's going to be there to get hit. And I think Ryan Spann's going to find that shot at some point and knock OSP out. Skill for skill, though, OSP is a better fighter. I think he's got better kicks. I think he's there's a little more variety in his striking. And then as far as the grappling goes, I also do think he's the overall better grappler positionally and things like that. Ryan Spann does have a pretty good guillotine and guillotine and Darce that he transitions to, but outside of that, man, I haven't really been too impressed with Ryan Spann's overall grappling. I do think OSP is a better overall grappler, but I don't think he's good enough to really just grapple fuck him and control him on the ground or submit him. And I do think this fight's going to stay on the feet. As I choke to death. I do think the fight's going to stay on the feet. And I do think Ryan Spann is going to get the KO. So I'm going Ryan Spann by knockout. Probably round 1, maybe round 2. Moving on up, we got Cesar Almeida versus Ihor Potieria. I'm going Cesar Almeida. I mean, this is pretty much two strikers going up against each other. The only difference is Almeida is actually a former pro kickboxer and has, fought actually really good competition. Actually beat Pereira, also lost to him, and I think he trains with him now too, if I'm not mistaken. And let me just look at the recent records here. Cesar Almeida, his last fight was against, I believe, Roman Kopylov. It was against Roman Kopylov. Lost by split decision. Kind of got wrestle-fucked in that fight. I remember I picked that fight. I did pick Roman Kopylov going into that fight. And it's not too bad of a loss, man, because Kopylov is legit. He's pretty good. And before that, he KO'd Dylan Budka. Pretty decent win, especially considering Petrosky couldn't get Budka out of there. Before that, he was 4-0. And I think this is kind of a gimme fight for him, to be honest with you. Ihor Potieria is a striker. He's pretty much like a brawler. He's knockout or bust. He's not really a grappler. And he got guillotined by Michel Pereira in their last fight. Before that, he beat Robert Brajcek by decision. Before that, he got TKO'd by Rodolfo Bellato and Carlos Olberg. His best win is against the Corpse of Shogun, where he KO'd him. And did that dumb little fucking dance afterwards. But I'm going Almeida. I think Almeida's going to knock him the fuck out. Like I said, it's two strikers striking an MMA fight. And I just think Almeida's going to be sharper, more technical, more calm, more precise. And I think he's just going to knock Ihor Potieria the fuck out, to be honest with you. If he doesn't KO him, he'll probably just 30-27 him across all 3 rounds. So I'm going Cesar Almeida. Probably by knockout, maybe a decision. Next up, we got Austin Hubbard versus Alexander Hernandez. Both of these guys, if you break down their career in the big picture, every time they fought upper level competition, they've lost pretty much. I mean, Hernandez does have that win over Beneil Dariush in his debut where he KO'd him in 10 seconds or something like that. And it was also kind of he went to Beneil went to glove touch, and then Hernandez just kind of cracked him and then KO'd him. Now, to be fair to Hernandez, in that fight, I know a lot of people give him shit, but he fucking came sprinting at Beneil Dariush. Literally came sprinting at him right at the gate. If you're Beneil Dariush, man, you gotta... If someone's sprinting at you at the start of a fucking fight with that kind of energy, you kind of just gotta assume they're not gonna touch gloves with you, and you should probably just brace for impact. So that's kind of on Beneil. And also, Hernandez is not obliged to necessarily touch gloves at the start of the fight. And especially if he's fucking sprinting towards you, he's not thinking about touching gloves with you. So that is on our Dariush. I think Hernandez gets a little more shit than he should for that, to be honest with you. But other than that, if you look at the record, Hernandez has fought way better overall competition than Austin Hubbard. Hernandez has fought, let me just look through his record. He's fought Damon Jackson in his last fight, lost by split decision. Before that, he lost to Bill Algeo. He beat Jim Miller. He got TKO'd by Billy Quarantillo, got submitted by Moicano. He lost to Thiago Moises. He beat Chris Grutzmacher. He lost to Drew Dober. He beat Trinaldo. He lost to Cerrone. He beat Olivier Aubin-Mercier. He also, in his debut, like I said, KO'd Dariush. So he's fought by far and away way better overall competition than Austin Hubbard has. It's really not even remotely fucking close, to be honest with you. Although most of those fights are losses on Hernandez's record when he fights the upper level guys. You know, he did beat an older Jim Miller. And he was fighting at featherweight. This fight is at 155. I like Hernandez better at 155. I don't think he should be fighting at 145. I actually thought he was a pretty big 55er when he initially came into the UFC, so I'm surprised he ended up making 145 to begin with. But he looked like shit at featherweight. He really did. I don't think he won us. I think he went 0-3 at featherweight. Yeah, he did go 0-3 at featherweight. So he's way better at lightweight. And, you know, he does have, like, you know, decent wins. Like, he did beat Olivier Aubin-Mercier. He did beat Francisco Trinaldo and Chris Gutzmacher. And he also beat an older Jim Miller. You know, I know those aren't, like, the, you know, the greatest wins. Especially, you know, the earlier wins were actually pretty good, like Trinaldo and Olivier Aubin-Mercier. But that was, you know, back in fucking 2019 and 2018. So it's been a while. I'm going Hernandez. I just feel like he's better. He's a well-rounded guy, and I just feel like he's a level above Austin Hubbard in terms of the competition they fought. Hubbard's last few fights, he beat Michael Figlak by decision. He lost to Kurt Hollabaugh. He barely beat Roosevelt Roberts by split decision. And just overall, he lost to Vince Pichel, lost to Joe Selecki, lost to Marco Madsen, lost to Davey Hamos. I mean, those aren't bad losses necessarily, but I don't know, man. I just feel like Hernandez has fought better fighters overall, and I feel like he's going to win this fight, probably by decision. I'm going to go Alexander Hernandez, 29-28. I think Hubbard might be able to steal a round, but I think Hernandez is going to be the overall better fighter. I think he's going to, you know, be the overall better grappler, better striker. Hubbard might be a better pure wrestler maybe, but even then I don't see Hubbard just taking him down and controlling him. I just don't see that happening. So I'm going to go Hernandez by decision in this one. Pretty comfortably. I think he's going to get this one done. So I'm going to go Alexander Hernandez by 29-28 decision. Moving on up, we got Marina Rodriguez versus Lasmin Lucindo. I'm going Rodriguez. At first, I was kind of thinking Lucindo, but Rodriguez, once again, when we circle back to the competition, has fought way better fighters and actually has pretty good wins on her record. Lucindo is on a roll. Since her loss to Yasmin Uruguay, she has been on a roll. But I just, stylistically, man, I just think this is a tough fight for her. You know, the height difference, the reach difference. Well, actually, Lasmin says she has a fucking 1-inch reach advantage, but I'm talking about, like, height and also, you know, the kicks and all that, too. That matters, in my opinion, more than, you know, arm reach. But Lucindo, her style is basically she marches forward, throws wild, you know, shots. She's tough. She's durable. And she's game. You know, she does throw down. Rodriguez, she's mostly a striker as well. She can grapple, especially from the top. But she is mostly a striker. She likes to use her clinch as well. Get the knees, the elbows going. Pin you up against the clinch. And when she hurts you, she is pretty ferocious. She's got good ground and pound. And I do think she's the overall better fighter. You know, she has lost a couple of fights recently. Let's just look at her recent record. She lost to Andrade in her last one, split decision, close fight. Before that, she TKO'd Michelle Waterson. Before that, she lost to Verna Jandaroba and Amanda Lemos. But she also has wins over Ann Janoun, Mackenzie Dern. She beat Waterson twice, actually. Amanda Hebos. She did lose to Carla Esparza by split decision. Drawed with Cynthia Calvillo, not that good of a loss. She also beat Tisha Torres or Pennington. So yeah, she's got good wins. You know, she does. And I feel like she's going to win this fight, although this one I'm not too confident about because Lasman, she's one of those girls where her toughness and just the way she fights by going forward and just throwing, she can end up winning decisions based off of that. And that is kind of the concern here, is that she just overwhelms Marina Rodriguez with the pace and the forward pressure. But I think Rodriguez is crafty enough, and she's a veteran, that if Lasman starts to really get wild and march forward, I think we're going to see Marina get the clinch, pin her up against the cage, use her height, and kind of get those knees and elbows going to get some damage off, possibly get the takedown and get top position. And she does have good ground and pound. So I'm going to go Marina Rodriguez in this one, probably by decision. I can maybe see a TKO due to ground and pound. Tough fight to pick, though. Really tough fight to pick. I would not at all be surprised if Lasman Lucendo gets a decision on this one just by kind of just being the bigger dog in the fight and just marching forward and throwing volume. And this is also at altitude. So we need to keep this in mind. I don't know personally which fighters have been training preemptively at altitude and which fighters haven't. I think I've heard, who was it? Who was saying they weren't training at altitude? Was it Pennington and Pena? I think Pena might have said that she wasn't preparing for the altitude or some shit. And Pennington brought that up as like, that's not a good thing. And it isn't, if it's true. Because, dude, it fucking matters. If you look at the fight cards that are at altitude versus the ones that are not at extreme altitude, at sea level, the performances on the cards are genuinely night and day difference. Like, it's pretty crazy how much of an effect it has, based off of sea level versus, extreme altitude. So, I'm going to go Rodriguez. I think that, again, the grappling, the clinch, and the overall damage she can do, I'm going to favor that over Lasman Lucendo. So I'm going to go Marina Rodriguez by this one, or on this one, not by this one. God damn it. Next fight up, we got Wonder Boy. I think Wonder Boy, right? Wonder Boy, and yeah, Wonder Boy and Buckley. I'm going Wonder Boy on this one, man. Buckley is on a roll since he's moved down to 170, but this is by far his biggest test, probably in his career, I would say, overall. And the big question here, right, is can Joaquin Buckley get a takedown? Because I'm telling you right now, if this fight stays on the feet, Wonder Boy's going to win, and he's going to win easily. It's just a terrible matchup for Buckley, striking-wise. Buckley, he's fast, but he's got mostly kind of this pocket boxing style where he rolls his shoulders and he moves his head and kind of cuts angles and tries to switch his stance and on his entries, and he tries to land with his hands. I just don't see that shit working against Wonder Boy, man. He's got too good of footwork. He's not going to play that game. As soon as he sees Buckley start rolling his shoulders and shifting his feet, he's just going to fucking glide right out of range and start blasting, side kicks and quick 1-2s. So I just don't see that striking style working against Wonder Boy. So the next thing is going to be, can Joaquin Buckley get a takedown? In his last fight, Buckley kind of used his wrestling to win the fight. Although Ruza Boev, that was at 170. He's 6'5", and he has shitty takedown defense. Wonder Boy actually has pretty good takedown defense. I know people will look at the Belal Muhammad fight or the Gilbert Burns fight and go, ooh, look at them. They took him down. But that's a whole different. Belal Muhammad is a really good fucking wrestler and the current champion. And Gilbert Burns, that was Gilbert Burns right at the tail end of his peak and right at the tail end of his prime. And Burns was able to get him down, relatively easily, although Wonder Boy did fucking rock him with a wheel kick in the third round and I won't say he almost knocked him out, but he definitely hurt him. And then even in his last fight against Shavkat, Shavkat really struggled to get Wonder Boy down in that fight initially. Like he didn't. Shavkat, out of Gilbert Burns and Belal Muhammad, by far and away had the hardest time taking down Wonder Boy. Now, mind you, he did submit Wonder Boy. He was the only one to do it out of those two to get a finish over him. So you have to give him credit there. But as far as just the pure wrestling goes, Shavkat struggled a lot more than Burns and Muhammad at taking Wonder Boy down. And that's kind of the question, is how good is Joaquin Buckley's wrestling? How much it has improved? because he can get takedowns. We've seen it. He's a strong, explosive guy, and if he gets in on your hips, he can absolutely lift you up through the air and take you down. But I just don't know if I can see him doing that against Wonderboy consistently and holding him down, too. Wonderboy, he's hard to hold down, man. He gets back up well, too. He is 41. He is older. Although Joaquin Buckley's not a fucking spring chicken himself. I think Joaquin Buckley's... Oh, he's 30? What the fuck? I thought he was like 35. So, no, apparently Joaquin Buckley's 30. I thought he was a little older, to be honest with you. But, yeah, so Joaquin Buckley, he's actually won 4 fights in a row. My bad. 3 at welterweight, 4 in a row overall. He beat Ruzaboev. He TKO'd Vicente Luque, beat Alex Morono by decision, and then he KO'd Andre Fiallo. Before that, at middleweight, he got KO'd by Chris Curtis, lost to Imavov. He did beat Albert Duraev, Abdul Razak Al Hassan. If you just look at their overall record, though, man, like a lot of Buckley's wins, and I'm not trying to be like a dick when I say this, they're against, lower level, as I wipe my nose, they're against lower level competition, not like low level competition, but either lower tier UFC competition or guys that are, kind of at the end of the career, like Luque, who had the brain bleed, and then he came back, and that fight was weird, man. Like, that fight was super weird with Luque and Buckley. Like, the way Luque just turtled up, and it was just weird, man. Like, I don't really know what to say about that. Before that, he beat Alex Morono by decision. Not that impressive, considering fucking Nico Price just beat him by decision. I don't know, man. I'm going with Wonderboy, especially as an underdog. If you look at the fight, who he's fighting, man, he's losing to Shavkat, who's probably the next title challenger. Before that, he fucking beat Kevin Holland, beat the shit out of Kevin Holland. Outside of the first round, he did get hurt pretty bad, but other than that, he did kind of beat the shit out of Kevin Holland. And then he lost to Belal Muhammad, the current champ, and then he lost to Gilbert Burns, a top contender, who's now at the tail end of his career, but at the time he fought him was still kind of, in his prime, but towards the end of his prime, but hasn't quite, fell off that mountain yet. And before that, he beat Jeff Neal pretty easily. He beat Vicente Luque pretty easily. He did get KO'd by Pettis, although if that fight happens 10 times, let's be real, Wonderboy wins it 9 out of 10 times. And he did lose to Darren Till, although he probably should have won that decision. Beat Masvidal, and then obviously we're going way back here when he fought for the title against Woodley. He beat Rory McDonald, beat Hendricks, beat Ellenberger. I'm not really counting these fights too much because those are so long ago, but you get the point. Wonderboy has fought way better competition, and stylistically, I think this is a terrible matchup for Buckley. And I'm going to go with Wonderboy by TKO. I actually think he's going to head kick Buckley. Buckley's been, that's been like a bit of a weakness, is his defense, and I don't see Wonderboy losing this fight, man. I just don't see him getting wrestle-fucked by Buckley, and I don't see him getting KO'd by Buckley or outstruck by Buckley for 3 rounds. So I'm going Wonderboy by TKO. I think he's going to actually land a head kick at some point and put Buckley out, rock him, drop him, and get him out of there. So I'm going with Wonderboy in this one, with the underdog, with the upset, by finish, by knockout at some point. So moving on up, we have Ketlen Vieira versus Kayla Harrison. I'm going Kayla. I'm going Kayla Harrison. I mean, Ketlen Vieira is pretty much submission or bust, and I don't think her submissions are that otherworldly good that she's going to catch somebody as good of a grappler as Kayla Harrison. And I do think physically Kayla Harrison is just going to be the way stronger fighter in there. And yeah, man, and even if it was on the feet, both of them kind of suck on the feet. Although Kayla, I just feel like will be a little sharper. She'll be a little more technical, and she'll stick to her fundamentals more than Ketlen will if it does stay on the feet. But I don't think it will. I think Kayla Harrison's going to ragdoll her. I think she's going to take her down, avoid any of the submission attempts. Ketlen Vieira likes to do guillotines and like darces, and she also likes to roll for leg locks as well. I just don't see that shit working against Kayla Harrison, man. I don't. I think Kayla's going to thwart all that and just kind of control her and ragdoll her and beat her up on the ground. And, I'm actually going to go with Kayla Harrison by submission herself in this one. I think it's going to take a while. She's going to have to wear Ketlen down, take her down, beat her up a bit, control her on the ground, and then eventually I do think she'll be able to take her back and submit her. So I'm going to go with Kayla Harrison by submission. If she doesn't get the submission, definitely a dominant decision. But yeah, I'm going to go Kayla Harrison. It's 2 grapplers. and I just feel like one's just more physically dominant, and that's Kayla Harrison. So moving on up, we got Roman Dolidze versus Kevin Holland. I'm going with Roman Dolidze in this one, man. I want Kevin Holland to win. I'll be rooting for Kevin Holland, but I think this is a horrible matchup for him. I don't like Kevin Holland at middleweight, and especially this matchup. A lot of people shit on Roman Dolidze because he's not the most technical guy. His fights can look a bit ugly, but the dude is tough as fuck. He's very durable. He's got an iron chin, and he marches forward, and he does throw power shots, and he can grapple. That's a nightmare matchup for Kevin Holland. You know what I mean? Because Kevin will be the sharper striker. He will be the sharper striker, and he is going to land shots. But that's the thing, is I just don't think those shots are going to have as much an effect on Dolidze as they normally do with other people that Holland fights. I think Dolidze is going to eat those shots and just kind of keep marching forward, throwing those big looping punches. Probably won't land, too many significant strikes on Holland, because Holland does have pretty good defense and an iron chin himself. But I see Dolidze just marching forward, throwing those shots, eating the shots that Kevin Holland throws, walking through them, pinning him up against the cage, getting a body lock, and taking Kevin Holland down and just kind of controlling him on the ground, being the bigger guy. And Dolidze is a nasty fucking grappler. He really is. Like, if he gets the fight to the ground, he is going to be the better grappler. Not that Kevin Holland can't grapple. He's got pretty good grappling himself as far as, submission grappling. But Dolidze is just a bigger guy, man. He fought his last fight at 205 on short notice against Anthony Smith, beat him pretty easily. And I don't know, man. I think it's a horrible matchup for Kevin Holland, and I think he's going to lose this fight, probably by decision. I could also see him getting submitted, though. I could see Dolidze submitting Kevin Holland at this fight, in this fight at some point. But I'm going with the underdog with Dolidze, man. It's just a shit matchup for Holland. I just don't see him winning this fight across 3 rounds. If it was a 5-rounder, I would be a little more open to picking Holland, because Dolidze sometimes slows down. And I could see Holland, possibly winning 3 rounds. But in a 3-rounder, I don't think he's going to win this, man. I think he's going to get controlled against the fence and taken down. And, yeah, I'm going to go Dolidze with the underdog on this one. I'm surprised he's an underdog, to be honest with you. So moving on up, we got Aldo versus Bautista. Again, another crazy situation where Aldo is a slight underdog. By the time this fight closes, I would be willing to bet Aldo will close as either a slight favorite or it'll be a pick'em at worst case. Currently, as last time I checked, as of yesterday, Aldo was like plus, I think, like 130 or something like that, which absolutely blows me the fuck away. I think Aldo's going to win this fight, and honestly, I think he's going to win this fight easily. Mario Bautista is good. Don't get me wrong, he's good, but I'm shocked that he is the favorite. Because in his last fight, dude, fucking Ricky Simone and Mario Bautista basically had a kickboxing match for 3 rounds. And it was kind of close, dude. It was kind of close. Like, it was uncomfortably close. Like, Bautista won for sure, but Ricky Simone was landing on him and gave him a fucking bloody nose. And Ricky Simone is not a good striker. He's a wrestler. Ricky Simone's pretty much got, like, an overhand and looping hooks, and that's about it. And he's tough. But I don't like seeing that, And the level of competition, again, this is kind of the theme on this card, is competition. If you look at one guy's record versus the other guy's record, it's pretty much night and day difference. The best wins that Mario Bautista has in his UFC career, or his career in general, are Ricky Simone, Damon Blackshear, and Miles Johns. And the Miles Johns fight was in 2020. He also got KO'd by Trevin Jones, who's no longer in the UFC, and he got armbarred by Corey Sandhagen in his UFC debut. Not a bad loss, but I am just blown away that Mario Bautista is the favorite against Aldo. Aldo, even though he's 37 or 38 now, he actually just turned 38. The dude's a fucking savage even still, and he's one of those guys that, despite being out of his prime, he's kind of like Dan Henderson in the sense that he's almost had like 2 or 3, primes, quote unquote. Even though like his prime was clearly from his WEC days up to the second Chad Mendes fight, and then after that, he did fall off from that absolute red hot peak that he was at. but still really good. Good enough that he won the fucking title again. He beat Frankie Edgar in a rematch to win the interim title. He ended up getting promoted to undisputed champion because Conor relinquished the belt, never fought at featherweight again. That's when he lost to Holloway, and then he rematched Holloway on short notice, lost again. And he had a few more fights at featherweight after that, beat Moicano, beat Jeremy Stevens, and then he dropped down to bantamweight. And since then, has had pretty good success at 135. He beat Rob Font dominantly. He beat Pedro Munoz dominantly. He beat Marlon Vera dominantly. He also he lost to Marlon Moraes in his bantamweight debut, although he won that fight. Let's be real. Everyone fucking knows Aldo won that fight. And he did lose to Piotr Jan in a competitive fight. Ended up getting TKO'd in the 5th round. And he lost to the current champ, Merab, although actually gave Merab probably his toughest fight since Merab's been on his roll. Merab was unable to take him down. And in his return fight, he beat Jonathan Martinez, who was on an absolute roll up to that point. And I am, again, blown the fuck away that Mario Bautista is the favorite in this fight, because I honestly think Aldo wins this fight, and I think he wins it easily. I really do, man. I think Aldo's going to beat the fuck out of Mario Bautista. Bautista's not taking him down. He's not taking Aldo down, especially in a 3-rounder. It's just not going to fucking happen. Bautista is a good submission grappler. I'll give him that. He's pretty slick with his guillotines and his transitions on the ground. He is. But Aldo, I just don't see him submitting Aldo. And again, I don't see him taking down Aldo. So the only way I could even see that happening is if he dropped Aldo and then got on top. And I don't see him dropping Aldo. I don't see him outstriking Aldo at all. I think Aldo is going to fucking piece him up. I think he's going to chop his legs down here and there. And I think he's going to rip his body up too. I'm going to go Aldo by TKO, man. I think he's going to actually finish Mario Bautista probably with like a body shot in this fight. I am, again, shocked that Aldo's the underdog. He should absolutely be the favorite in this fight. And if you're, putting money down, I would bet the fucking house on Aldo right now as long as he stays the underdog, because that is crazy. And I promise you, I absolutely promise you, by fight time, when it closes, Aldo will not be an underdog. He'll either be a slight favorite or it'll be like dead even pick'em money. So I'm going to go with Aldo in this one again. Shocked that Bautista is the favorite in this one. Absolutely blown away. Even if Aldo's 38, I don't give a fuck. He should not be the underdog in this fight. End of fucking discussion. So moving on up with the co-main event, we got Raquel Pennington versus Juliana Pena. I'm going Raquel Pennington in this one. Juliana Pena is just too damn inactive, and I just don't think her style is going to work against Pennington over 5 rounds. I could see Pena having some success early in the fight. Maybe the first couple of rounds she gets a takedown or two, gets some control time. But I don't see her maintaining that pace. And I think Pennington's just an overall better striker, and she's really improved her grappling defense. So I'm going to go with Pennington with this one. Decision. I think it's going to be a decision. But yeah, I think she's going to outlast Pena and then eventually stuff the takedowns and then get the striking going. I mean, dude, let's be real. Pena's best win is a fluke win over Nunes. It was a crazy fight. She got the win, but then she immediately rematched Nunes and got the absolute shit beat out of her for 5 straight rounds. And it became very evident that was a fluke, similar to Matt Serra GSP. I like Matt Serra, but let's be real, it's a fluke. Similar to Pena and Nunes. Pena's really not on that level. She's not bad, but she's just not on that level. And I think Pennington's going to win. I think Pennington by decision, similar to some of the other fights I was talking about. I think damage is going to be the thing that's going to be the difference in this fight, and I think Pennington is going to be the one that can cause way more damage. So I'm going to go with Raquel Pennington by decision. I think she retains her title, and then she's probably going to fight Kayla Harrison after that and lose. I mean, that's just probably how it's going to go. Moving on up to the main event of the evening, Khalil Roundtree Jr. versus Alex Poatan Pereira. Going Pereira, man. Look, Khalil has a puncher's chance, and that's about it. And to be fair, Khalil probably has a better puncher's chance than most people, to be fair and to give him some credit. But, man, just Pereira ain't fucking losing to the people that Khalil's lost to in his career. He just ain't. And Khalil has been on a streak, and Khalil's one of those guys where, he either looks like a world beater or he just looks kind of you know what I mean? And that's kind of been his whole career. And to be fair, he's been more consistently looking good in his recent fights. But again, competition level. We got to go back to this competition level. And stylistically, too. It's two strikers. I mean, and Khalil lost to Dustin Jacoby. He won technically, but he lost the fight. Everyone who watched that fight knows he lost that fight. Jacoby, who's been on a losing streak recently. It's just not a good look, man. He also lost to Marcin Prachnio and Iwan Kutilaba and fucking Johnny Walker, although that was Johnny Walker before he, lost his confidence. So I'm going Pereira, man. I mean, Khalil has a puncher's chance, and all the people that are picking Khalil, the only reason they're doing it is because if by the off chance he does land that shot and KOs Pereira and wins the title, everyone's going to try to be like, oh, we look so smart picking Khalil. Look, dude, if these two fight 100 times, Pereira probably beats him like fucking 95 times. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the way it is. Pereira's a way better striker. He's way more nasty on the feet. He's got more one-punch power, and he's just better. He's better at setting things up. And another thing I noticed is that Khalil, when he tends to fight other decent strikers, he's not the same aggressive killer that he normally is. He's much more reserved, and he's much more hesitant to really let it go. And that's only going to be fucking amplified when he's standing in front of Alex Pereira. And I guarantee you, the first time Pereira hits him with a low kick or a calf kick or a decent shot, he's going to be like, oh shit. And he's probably going to kind of go into a defensive shell, and then Pereira's probably just going to end up marching him down and KOing him. The only real scenario that concerns me is similar to the second Izzy MMA fight, is if Pereira hurts Khalil, gets him backing up towards the fence and starts to kind of tee off on him and gets too, overconfident, overzealous, and ends up getting cracked with a counter. That's the only thing that really concerns me, and that's the only way I can really see Khalil winning this fight, is if Pereira just fucks up and gets way too over-aggressive, thinking he's just going to knock him out. That's the only way I see that happening. I just don't see it happening. I think Pereira's going to win, and I think Pereira's going to knock him out. Probably with like a left hook. I could see a left hook, maybe a right hand, but I think it's going to be done with the punches, not the kicks or the knees. So I'm going to go with Alex Pereira, KO, round 1, round 2, man. This is a gimme fight and an easy win for Alex Pereira. I like Khalil, he seems like a pretty cool guy, but he should not be fighting Alex Pereira. It should be somebody like Magomed Ankalaev. But the UFC, it's very clear with their business model as of late. They want strikers to be champions. They want strikers to be in the top of the division because they want entertaining fights to the casual fan base, and grapplers to the casual fan base are just not exciting. Only the hardcores are really going to give a shit about that. So the UFC is given a fan-friendly fight between these two, even though Khalil doesn't deserve to be fighting for the title. Let's just say it how it is. Pereira's going to win. I think he's going to win by knockout, and I think he's going to do it early, and I think it's going to be with the hands. So I'm going to go with Alex Pereira. I think he's going to retain the title. And, I hope he does fight Magomed next. Magomed's fighting Rakic. I think Ankalaev will win that fight. And then hopefully Pereira will fight him. And then we get to see Pereira actually fight somebody that can, wrestle and grapple a bit, and that'll be interesting to see. So yeah, that's the predictions and that's the breakdowns. I got 3 major underdogs, which is Aldo, Delize, and Wonderboy. That's a pretty good 3-pick parlay. I think you could do, because I really honestly think all 3 of those guys are going to win, and they're going to win easier than most people think they are. So, yeah, that's the UFC 307 predictions and breakdowns. And, I will see you guys next time. Have a good one. And, enjoy the fights on Saturday.